As everyone can tell, we're talking about one of the products that changed my life, and that's Adaptable. And Greg, I'm excited to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, I'm excited to be here too, Kristen. And by the way, you did awesome. Tiffany would be proud. And Nicole, I like how Nicole she says adaptables. She's not the only one. So just keep saying it that way, Nicole, because there are 6, and you could argue possibly 7 different adaptables in there. It's not just one thing. That's not what we're about. We're actually about a wide variety of complementary adaptogen-based plants. The reason is because we're all so different. And I also think another reason, you mentioned it, life, and Temi mentioned it, things change up. We change, things around us change, and our needs do. Absolutely, they do. And so when we've got a bigger variety in that adaptable blend, we've got something there that can make a difference in the situation we're in. We just might need to change up how many we take or what time of day. Sometimes smaller amounts, multiple times a day can be the trick. Other times it's, I knew one young mother, they have like 6 kids now, okay? They had like 2 when she found Solle. And it was the mornings. And she tried some of the Solle drinks. It was back when we only had Solle, Vital, and Cinnamate, and Adaptable. She learned a little bit about it, and it made a difference, but it didn't get her. She would do it when she got up in the morning. But her hardest time was actually having any desire whatsoever to get up. It was so hard for her at this time. So what she did is someone helped her. Someone in her mentor tree said, try it before you go to bed. So she tried it before she went to bed. That did it. Years later, she's been doing it that same way. For her, that's what she needed. Before bed, woke up ready to go. And she's changed, I think, from time to time, like how much she'll take, but that's how she does it. So if you don't mind, I hate that I just stare and share. I got to do stare and share tonight because I brought notes. And what I've done is picked one of the herbs from Adaptable because there's not time to tell you about all of them tonight. And every single one is like a 15-minute super informative bullet point. Every single one of those. And there are 7 different herbs in Adaptable. I'm going to pick one, and you know something? I'm going to pick one that you may not expect because it's not a full adaptogen. It is adaptogenic, but it's not considered full. It's the St. John's wort. Why is it in here? There was a training that Dr. Allison Caldwell Andrews did a few years ago that is still one of my very, very favorite to this day. And I reviewed it for tonight. And I'm going to stare and share it with you now, okay? So I'm going to just give you all sorts of hot points about what St. John's wort does for us. And think about what adaptogen does for you. And people, you were reading some chats there, Kristen. So, almost everybody needs it. I would say, someone said most people need it or whatever. I honestly would say everyone. I'm going to say almost everyone because because it's hard to say everyone and have anyone take you seriously. If I could say everyone, I would say everyone, but I'm just going to say almost everyone will see a benefit and major changes with Adaptable. And here's why. I'll give you a couple of stare and share facts tonight. St. John's wort is one of the very key ingredients. It is almost always pigeonholed because St. John's wort is an herb famous from Europe that people have associated with depression because it makes a huge difference. Well, why? Why did it receive that fame? Well, number one, it's been in a lot of studies where they'll straight substitute it for a pharmaceutical. So for a prescribed antidepressant. And St. John's wort does very well in many of those studies. Hence, it gets this fame as, oh, you could do St. John's wort if you don't want to do a prescription. St. John's wort, the botanical name is Hypericum perforatum, roughly pronounced. And one of the very famous philosophers from centuries ago called it arnica for the nerves. Arnica, you might know, is a great topical that eases inflammation and pain. Arnica for the nerves. St. John's wort is super, super complex. Let me tell you a few of its titles. First of all, it's a nervine sedative. A nervine is anything that helps the nervous system that either calms it or stimulates it or restores it. All those things are nerving. St. John's wort falls in the category of something that calms the nervous system, but it's not just in your head. I'll come back to that point, meaning nerves that are located in your head. St. John's wort does show a marked ability to reduce anxiety, but also enhance your brain, cognitive functioning. So memory, both acquiring memories and consolidating, sorting through memories. Think about that with our emotions. It reverses some types of amnesia from other studies. So you think about restoration in brain. Okay, it also is, so there's some of its qualities as a nervine. It's also a tonic. So that means it's a restorative herb. Helps heal and restore the nervous system, not just the brain. In fact, the topic of this training from Dr. Allison was the gut brain, our second brain. So what is that? Well, she started off by saying for instance, there was a study with rats about, and it's, that's another whole commentary, but rats who had become addicted to alcohol through their study, when they ate St. John's wort, pulled away from the alcohol. It actually reduced their desire to consume it. So there's that was an interesting study with St. John's wort. How is it working and why does it do some of these things? Well, Dr. Allison reminds us it actually helps your gut, your stomach, your intestines, your gallbladder, your liver. It has bitter and astringent herbs, which are like toning, tightening and toning, in tissue improving. So like things with leaky gut and other tissues, those improve with St. John's wort. Hence, your gut health improves. Studies with diarrhea actually improving with St. John's wort. But the main area, and this is the part of my stare and share tonight, is something known as your enteric nervous system. All those nerves, 100 million more than that, nerve cells that line your whole GI tract from start to finish. Okay, why is that so important? Well, Dr. Allison reminds us that 90% of the information that flows along our main nerves between the brain and the gut, the vagus nerve, come from the gut and go to the brain. Only 10% comes top down. Bottom up is where the communication. So what kind of communication? This is what Dr. Allison says. Your daily emotional well-being. Actually, more messages that influence our daily emotional feelings come from the gut up to the brain than vice versa. In fact, it's critical. That whole area, what's called the enteric brain, uses over 30 different kinds of neurotransmitters, just like the brain. And our microbiome influences that. For instance, serotonin, which we're familiar with, most of it, 95% of it's found in the gut. So where does St. John's wort come in with all this? Well, because it is a regulator there. In fact, its third name, it's an anodyne, which means it deals with nerve health and nerve pain. So shooting pain, shingles, neuralgia, sciatica, all those things, inflammation, pain caused by inflammation. St. John's wort actually helps balance that back, including like menstrual pain. So one study that you can find in PubMed, this was a study that Dr. Allison quoted. It was back in 2011. If St. John's wort's taken for at least 2 full menstrual cycles, physical and behavioral symptoms reduce in menstrual pain. So St. John's wort, it's amazing in that. In fact, its last title that I was going to share with you is called a vulnerar. I'm not even sure how to pronounce this, vulnerar. What that means, a vulnerary, I think I might have pronounced that right, it's a wound healer. So I think about that emotionally and physically because of what it does in nerves and with that enteric system, those messages sent to our brain. But it also is great topically. In fact, we have it in the Solflex AC. Now, I said this wrong because I didn't realize there's one more slide. There's a 5th title of St. John's wort. So it's a wound healer, but it's also a liver protector, hepatoprotective. What does it protect your liver from? Inflammation, oxidative stress, damage from poisons and toxins. And in fact, studies have shown St. John's wort helps the body, the liver in particular, process out chemicals faster. That is why sometimes people will talk about St. John's wort interacting, because chemicals and things that are meant to force the body, they get digested, they get dealt with eventually by the liver. When that happens more quickly, which St. John's wort does help happen, then the effects aren't as big, and they feel like it's fighting against it. But what it's really doing is helping the body process chemicals away, as the body should. Now, I know that was a lot of points. That's one ingredient, St. John's wort in Adaptable. And so think about it in summary. I'll just tell you her summary slide to end with this. This is the summary slide from Dr. Allison, okay? 3 points. It's useful for many things, not just to regulate anxiety and mood, but it also may be so successful at doing that because of how well it works in helping the gut. And it's primarily a calming, soothing. I would call St. John's wort, I like the term wound healer, physical, emotional, or mental. It's just really on us. We sort of find our amounts, the intervals that we take it in, how we take it, whether we want to open up, put it in a smoothie like Nicole does, great. Find your way and find what works. And over time, listen to your body. Change your way in the way you use it if your body kind of asks for that. Anyway, back to you, Kristen. I hope that wasn't too long.
No, that was not too long at all. I'm like in awe over here. And I keep thinking of that phrase that you used, wound healer, and just, how complex that is. You think of it, like you said, in terms of, okay, we have it in the AC cream, but then from personal experience of having been someone who had a real transformation with Adaptable, how deep that hit me, wound healer. So thank you for sharing that. And I just have to tease you that I love your stare and shares. And I don't know where you came from up with that term,
I think
but
because I was just staring to this at the notes.
um yeah, and this is not our usual routine, but I'm watching the chat over here, and I hope it's okay if I interrupt you
Oh, yeah.
and share a few more of these comments. So Corinne wrote, I think Adaptable is great for anyone that has a teenager, knows a teenager, or is a teenager.
Yes.
I
Someone
thought that was
once said
great.
someone once said it was the cure for the common teenager. That's kind of, but I will tell you that because the person that shared that, their teenager was asking for another bottle after they tried one, didn't want to try it the first time, and then came back and said, "Can I have another bottle?"
Wow.
They said, this was a young man. I like how I feel when I'm taking it.
Yeah, and it is funny how kids will ask for it after a while. I've got 3